Great Tuesday, and welcome to the King Connections podcast. I'm your host, King, and I'm joined today by my guest, Karen Huller. How you doing today, Karen?
I'm doing great, King. How are you doing today?
Doing great. Thank you for joining me on the King Connections podcast.
My pleasure.
So one of the questions I always like to get started with is kind of set the context. And that would be, what is your spiritual energy number? And what I mean by that question is, being 0, life sucks, to 10, life is awesome. And where do you see yourself fitting in right now?
I would say that I vacillate depending on what's going on in the world from a 6 to an 8.
Okay, excellent. All right. And the reason I ask that question is that, folks have if I meet people who are 2s and 3s, and I know it's not going to be a good energy as far as the conversation. So that's why I asked. So thank you for indulging me with that.
Sure.
So my first question to begin things would be, what do you see as your purpose in life?
Well, my number one purpose is raising my kids, making sure that they grow up to be happy, well-adjusted, contributing members of society. That's always number one for me. From a global perspective, from a divine perspective, I'd say that my purpose is facilitating co-creation for a more conscious world. I certainly always wanted to be someone who made the world better than when I found it. And my career thus far has been doing that. But in a vision of the future, it's really getting all these people like yourself who are creating ripples to make a more conscious planet and getting a game plan together. Getting the people who love peace as organized, if not more organized, than those who love war.
I love that. We have a similar goal in that context. That's why I see the alignment. I believe in creating what I call connectionally intelligent tribes of conscious leaders who have this higher purpose to make a difference in the world. And that, for me, at this stage in my life, is the best relationships to build with. So I look at folks, they're not conscious, and I'm not necessarily interested in really building with them. Just from what I've gone through in my life, that I'm more interested in the relationship than I am the transaction. Because I feel that if we can build a relationship, we can have multiple transactions from that, as opposed to trying to tie everything just to that one transaction that you're trying to get accomplished.
I see how to move the planet forward in consciousness kind of like tiered. So people who are more advanced on their conscious journey, being able to not necessarily, reach down all the levels to the ground level and pick people up, but to reach down to the level below you and bring them up. So if you're on the beach, just enjoying life, unaware of the tidal wave that's coming of change, you're just, happy-go-lucky, happy to be there, not realizing that there's this place at the top of the mountain that you could be going. You could see that wave coming. You could prepare. You could stay, in a higher state of mind among higher state of mind people. But at every level up that mountain is somebody who's making that journey, who's finding trials and tribulations, learning lessons that can help the people right behind them come up. And that's how I see it.
Absolutely. Well, that would bring you kind of answered part of my next question within that answer, but I just want to see if there's any more you want to unpack, because I always ask this question: how do you find a conscious leader? So can you expand on that just a little bit more, please?
A conscious leader to me is anyone who prioritizes people and planet alongside profit. Somebody who wants to use their talents and their time and their energy to make the planet a better place in some way, shape, or form. But, there's a lot that's required of conscious leaders, especially today. And it all starts with self-awareness and knowing yourself and being able to heal your trauma and recognize your shadows and, be able to look inward and look at yourself first before you look out and try to fix, everyone else.
Absolutely. Definitely starts with connecting with yourself. And as you said, to get in alignment with yourself. So in that same vein, that's an excellent segue to my next question, which is, what are you most grateful for?
My health. You have nothing if you don't have your health. And I know that all too well. 2018, I was just, you know, a little burnout, pushing it too hard, but wound up just simple allergies, sinus infection turned into pneumonia. I was out of work for many months and felt, you know, useless. My purpose, you know, who cares about my purpose in this time when I can't even, you know, breathe, trying to make it through the night alive, you know, like that's, I know a lot more people since then have experienced those times when you don't have anything if you don't have your health. So that's number one thing that I'm grateful for, the health of myself and the health of my family.
Excellent, excellent. And so, what is the mission of? Forgive me if I mispronounced this. Is it Charlotte's resume?
Charisma is the legal name for Charisma because it was charisma and resume. So originally, when I first started my company in 2006, it was really about helping people sell themselves, and you know, and a resume is a great tool for that. Since opening my doors 16 years ago, a lot of what I offer has expanded. So I rebranded as Epic Careering in 2014. That's what I've been doing business as. And the main mission, what we do, all the decisions that I make about my business and my investments of time around my business are related to making work better for people. So that could look like, you know, taking a leader who feels stifled in their ability to influence conscious change at their workplace and teaching them first how to look inward and manage, you know, and own how their relationships are creating the results that they're seeing and how they can own change and transform in ways that will help them transform the environment around them. And it can also look like people hitting their limit with what they're able to tolerate at their current workplace in terms of toxic levels and limits to growth, you know, limits to promotion and expansion, and helping them find companies that will enable them the opportunity to grow and change and influence change like they want.
Absolutely, absolutely. And what inspired you to want to create the company?
I would say figuring out what my future was going to look like as a young kid. My parents did not make working in a corporate job look very appealing to me. I honestly thought I would be very, very far from the corporate world. They, you know, from being just tired, exhausted, underappreciated, underpaid, pushed to the limits, to being forced into early retirement, having retirement benefits taken away. I really didn't think I would wind up anywhere close to a corporation. I was going to be a journalist originally. And then when I got to college and started learning about the media, I changed my mind. I didn't really want to be the person who's taking information that's guided by, you know, some mogul, and disseminating out to the people. I wanted to really have fun. That's what I thought I'd be doing. I got into radio. I was producing talk shows and having a great time, but ultimately it was really not fulfilling. And somebody was like, you know, recruiting. And I was like, wow, you know what? I had a temporary assignment because I had to temp while I was working in radio to make money to pay the bills. And I had a temporary assignment. It was 3 months long in an HR office for a non-casino resort in Atlantic City. And I was like, wow, like I can take somebody who's wanting to find a better place in their life and their career, and I can help them find a job that aligns, like just be able to make that contribution for people, knowing that that's a difference I could make that I wasn't able to make for my parents, you know. But that felt like a contribution that was meaningful because I knew how that kind of change is going to impact families.
Yes. Now, I understand you also have a product or a service called a corporate consciousness ripple blueprint. So can you explain what that is?
I started to develop that in 2018. I went to this event, a Mind Valley event, if you're familiar with Mind Valley.
Yes.
And the owner, Vishen Lakhiani, challenged everybody in the room to either own and operate a, how did he put it, Consciousness Plus organization, or work for a Consciousness Plus organization. And I started to develop this program that is intended to be a double certification program for people who want to commit their careers to conscious leadership, whether that looks like being in an organization and being the go-to person for conscious leadership. But of course, leaders, their primary role is to create other leaders. So to spread conscious practices throughout the organization, or as a practitioner externally, a contractor, a coach, to spread conscious leadership. And it's 2 18-week sections. The first one, of course, everything starts with the self. 6 weeks of self, 6 weeks of team, 6 weeks of organizational change and influence, and then you become a certified conscious leader. And then 18 more weeks, you are actually teaching your own 5 people the same thing you just learned, so that you're creating other leaders. Not like a pyramid scheme, because it's not like you just get money off of the people you're getting. It's really just because if you focus on 5 leaders and do it well, and those 5 leaders go out and create 5 new leaders, then in a few years you have 200,000 new conscious leaders in the world. And that's really the point of that. I didn't launch this program, interestingly enough. I was about to launch this program at the beginning of 2020. I hired some coaches to fill this program and realized that that's when I had an epiphany about co-creation, and realized that while I have some great content and I have experience already in curriculum development, I wanted to co-create this program with other conscious leaders. So what I'm working for, is to find the other conscious leadership founders who are going to help me make this program the absolute best it can be, and not in a static way, like, great, we made it as best we can and now we're going to launch it, but like to continually own and hone this program with me and launch it that way.
Absolutely. Well, I love it. I'm doing something similar in the context. So again, I'm definitely sensing and seeing the alignment that we have with each other, for sure.
Definitely.
Now, since your career is about helping individuals create their resume, I'm just curious to know, have you seen a change? Because I've been out of the job market. So I'm just curious, is there a change now in how resumes are not only being sent, but being read, reviewed, considered in this new gig economy that we're dealing with currently?
I'd say in gig economies, there's a lot more freedom with resumes. It doesn't have to call it a resume, a sell page, an infographic page. But when it comes, the reason why resumes haven't really evolved past this Word document stage is just because corporations use applicant tracking systems. But when you're pursuing work that is independent, 1099, corp to corp, you don't need to accommodate the applicant tracking system, and you can get a lot more creative. And it behooves you to not necessarily follow a conventional resume format if you're going for gigs versus going for full-time employment. That the only difference would be if you're still looking to contract for major corporations, they still, want you to use the resume and still have to accommodate those applicant tracking systems.
Interesting. And where would personal branding kind of fit within that, if you are someone that's more the 1099 person?
All of your collateral are an extension of your personal brand. I don't start with your resume. I start with your personal brand. We figure out what are the 4 to 6 tenets of your unique value. And then that is the so what for what goes in your resume. It's the so what for what goes in your LinkedIn profile, who you're targeting, what's important to them. How do they make decisions about you? So branding is like the bridge between what you do that's unique and valued, and then who needs it, and how are they going to make decisions about you, and just creating a deep resonance so that you're attracting the kind of audience that you ultimately will be the most successful working with and for, and also repelling audiences that are really not a great fit, and you shouldn't waste your time pursuing them in the first place.
Absolutely. Now, what is C3? You have are you still there?
Sorry. You froze for a little bit. So if you said something just now, I didn't catch it.
Yeah, we both froze. I'm glad we got through that time issue. What is C3? If I'm saying that correctly?
C3 is the Corporate Consciousness Co-op. It's a community that I co-manage along with my partner, Lawrence Henderson, on LinkedIn. If you are on LinkedIn and a member of many LinkedIn groups, you might find them to be weak in comparison to other platforms with other group like functionalities like Facebook. But what we've done with the LinkedIn community, and we're on LinkedIn because that's our audience, corporate professionals, right? They're on LinkedIn.
Yes.
So what we've done is we've kind of made it like the public television of LinkedIn groups where our members are all committed to co-creating. The difference between, so they get to choose the content, like what's important to you around conscious leadership. What do you want to learn? They decide what we cover in terms of topics. They get first dibs at being panelists in our organization for these events. Any of our members can step up at any time to say, this is an important topic I feel we need to cover, and they can take the stage. And share it. We're pro promotion. Like, come in and don't keep your secret sauce a secret if it's changing the world, right?
Absolutely. I've attended one of your sessions recently, so thank you for the invitation.
Yeah, I saw you were there. What'd you think?
No, I enjoyed it. Again, it's definitely being able to connect and listen to folks who already identify what's important to me, having a higher purpose behind making a difference in the world. And through that value creation, that's where our profits and our revenues created through that value creation process, as opposed to just trying to make something to do to make money.
Right.
So my question would be, because we have a lot of conscious listeners listening to this podcast, what would be some of the ways they can find more information? I know you have the link there, but if you can give some more details so they can participate and join in if interested.
If anybody listening, if you are a conscious leader or an aspiring conscious leader committed to co-creating a more conscious corporate landscape, then use that link. It's a bit.ly link. It will shoot you right to the group page on LinkedIn and request to join. We check those requests pretty frequently, so you should be approved. It's an organically grown, like just from events like this and one-on-one conversations type of group. And we expect that once we hit a critical point, it might grow pretty fast from that point. And then we'll figure out what we're going to do with a high volume of people, which I think that's where we're like, okay, let's organize, right? Let's get some operationalization around what this group can do as a powerhouse of positive change. So we're 2 years in to this community. Come in, introduce yourself, tell us what you know about conscious leadership that has worked successfully for you. And that goes into the poll ideas. So if you come in and say, I've tried this method. For instance, we had somebody come in to say, I learned how to use emails more assertively so I can get more things done with my team and command more respect so I can have greater influence in what they do as a team. She did a whole event. So we put that into, assertive emails or assertive communication into a poll. It got chosen. She was a panelist. That's what we want people to know. We want people to learn better how to influence positive conscious change.
Excellent, excellent. And for our listening audience, I will also put that in our LinkedIn profile, the link, so that you can find it when we post it on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook as well.
Thank you.
So my next question would be, now for me, and you just kind of outlaid some of the things that you are building with conscious leaders, but are there any other characteristics that you look for when you're establishing a new connection?
Open-mindedness. I'm really skeptical of people who think they have it all figured out. Honestly, I don't know how anybody that's. I find as I grow in age and wisdom that confidence to me is can be kind of superficial. So I'm looking for people who have humility and can be vulnerable and open and authentic, even if they disagree with me. Being open and authentic means that we can have a conversation that is civil and civic and productive, even if we don't wind up agreeing, but to find a way to move forward together, because we need all the people we can get to be moving consciousness forward. And there's a lot still to figure out. So yeah, that's really it. Just open-mindedness, openness, being able to admit that you don't know everything. And even if we decide we're right about something, right is relative.
Absolutely. Absolutely. One of my I have 8 virtues that I've chosen that I hold myself accountable. Not that I'm actually living it every day, but that's my true north. And one of those is definitely being growth minded. Right?
Yeah.
I realize that I love to learn, and I'm on that journey of constantly learning new things. And each time I meet a new connection, I'm learning something, right? And I
Yeah.
like how people's perspectives can help me see that, because of course, the way we're raised in America, we're forced into tribes whether we want to be or not, based on our gender, based on our race, based on our sexual orientation, based on our income, based on our demographics. And so we have to grow beyond those tribes and begin to realize that there's people out there who may look differently, talk differently, but whose goals are more aligned with folks who actually may physically look like us. So that growth mind is definitely something that's very important to me in that context.
Yeah. Always testing the group think, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So what would be, and I guess you kind of answered this already as well, but I'll give you a chance to kind of expand it more specifically. What would be a great connection for you?
Other leaders like you to come into C3. I want a council to be, one of the ultimate things that comes out of this community. A bunch of people who can, like I said, operationalize, put some structure around a movement, be very formal about it. If you have, an educational program around conscious leadership, we're conscious leaders. Let's see how we can put our power together and do more faster, because there's it's a critical moment in history. It's a critical moment in time. I don't want to lose momentum from everything that came up in 2020. There was a reason why this all came up, and it's because it's like the stirred up the bottom, right? Everything came to the top. I don't want it to settle back down. We need to take care of it. So now's the moment. More leaders like you. I want to get together and not really decide how it looks, and not really decide how it plays out. So I'm not going to be like, this is what we're going to do. Let's get together and decide what we're going to do together.
I love it. Co-creating, right?
Yeah.
That's what's important. I love it. Of all the things you've accomplished in your life, what would you say has been the most rewarding?
In 2008, before I had kids, I heard that the township was my township where I live outside of Philadelphia was looking to potentially add a community pool, which I had in my community growing up, which was the same community, and a community center. So I joined that board. We did some feet on the street effort to find out what support there was, what objections there were to this community center, what amenities were necessary, what locations were desirable. And it wasn't until 2015 that it moved forward. But it's been open now for 6 years, and 6 years in September. I'm on the board still. We're creating access to really great programs that help people live active lifestyles, but also be lifetime learners, and create community. So I'm really proud of that.
Excellent. Excellent. What are some of the morning rituals that you do to kind of keep yourself feeling positive and in the right energy and mind frame to make the great conscious connections that you need to make?
I started 3 or 4 habits when I became certified in hypnotherapy back in 2018 that I still do today.
Mm-hmm.
And the first one is I lay in bed. I lay in bed. I feel the sheets. I become present in the moment. It's not necessarily meditation. It can be meditation. Meditation is something I'll do daily, but not necessarily at the same time. But it's just a moment of presence. Before I pick up my phone, before I get my kids out of bed, before I think about all the things that I have to do that day. The other thing that I do is I make my bed. I did not make my bed as a kid. I was not in that habit as a kid, but it really does make a difference. Even my husband admits that a made bed does make somewhat of a difference. Just to like walk into the room and see the made bed, it's like, okay, that's done. I also have yeah. And all the books say like the happiest people make their beds. I'm like, I better try this.
Absolutely.
I also have this morning drink that I make. It's apple cider vinegar and turmeric and cayenne pepper and ginger, lemon juice and water. and it's just like a little reset in the morning. It tastes awful. When I get out of the habit, I like get sick. So I feel like it's, it's doing something.
Absolutely. Well, listen, if it's keeping you in a positive energy that you have, then it's working in that context. So definitely keep that up.
And
And
coffee. I can't do much without coffee.
okay. Now, my next question is there a kin connection that you would like to meet? Let me define kin connection. A kin connection is not a play on my company or on my name. It's I define an individual who, based on their social capital success, their financial success, their overall status, and the world, that if they were to add you to their inner circle, it would change your life dramatically, exponentially, because of that. And so for me, a person that fits that criteria would be Magic Johnson. He's somebody who I would want to connect with. I'm in real estate. He has a real estate background, but at the same time, he's someone who's been successful in everything he's pretty much been a part of. And he's been able to sustain a very successful track record of people who continually want to meet him, engage with him, from world leaders to other sports leaders to business leaders. So that would be a key connection for me. Mm-hmm. And my first asking question is, as a connector, I'm a system engineer, and my background is really understanding processes. I believe it's a process to get to that kin connection, right? And similar to what you said, using the process, the power of five. Like there's always five other people that kin connection knows that you can leverage. So by the time you meet that kin connection, the leverage is not here. I don't want to meet Matt Johnson as a fan. I want to meet him as a co-creator that I can bring value.
Yeah.
So with that being said, who would be a great kin connection for you?
By name or just by demographic, or
however you want to.
Okay.
Shares feels like sharing.
I would love somebody who has a global reach, because this is definitely going to have to be a global effort, right? Somebody who has a global reach, and not necessarily the means themselves, but the access to means, because this, what I envision this will need is, again, to be organized, to be promoted, to be visible to more people. The frontline leaders of the consciousness movement, it's not easy to be a conscious leader. And I know that from my clients, firsthand account. They're often one of very few people willing to stand up for what's right. And once they do, they can be targeted. They can be, ushered out. I want to make sure that when leaders put their careers at stake to do the right thing, that there is a place for them to go where they can make the difference that they want. And there are so many of those people right now working in companies, going to work every day, wondering, maybe they know, maybe they don't, that the efforts and the talent that they're contributing are going towards what's meaningful to them, what's going to make the world better. And I want to reach those people. That's going to take some power. It's going to take some money. It's going to take some marketing. It's going to take some promotion. And it's going to take an organized effort. And we all are, us conscious leaders, right? It's not that we should live in poverty because that's our goal, right? It's going to take our own effort and our own time. So yeah, a way that everybody can benefit from the efforts that they put forward instead of hurt by the efforts that they put forward.
Absolutely. And my last question, which is one of my favorite questions, because I can learn a lot about people by the books they read, books they have. I believe when you walk into someone's house or their office and you see the books they have, it communicates a lot. The lack of books communicates a lot. Not a judgment, but just it communicates. Everything it communicates in context. So with that being said, do you have any books or a book that you would recommend that you would say, here's been something that's been very influential in my life, or it should be the last week or so, I just read this great book. Here's a book I would highly recommend that folks check out.
If you don't know who Cy Wakeman is, definitely check her out. She has a YouTube channel. She's goes live on Facebook. She's a very relatable, down-to-earth leader. I've seen her speak live. Her book, No Ego, I may or may not have it with me because I lend it out a lot. But she is her brand of leadership is called reality-based leadership. So it's taking the fact that, especially in healthcare right now, where people are under-resourced and overstretched, yet still are necessary, to take care of everything that there is to take care of right now. That's a battlefield that she speaks from her experience. And she tells leaders how to turn off drama, wasteful drama that puts people in this spin of unproductivity, and meaningless dribble. But it's like she teaches you how to flip the switch by just asking some key questions of people, right? So that you can turn off that inner chatter, turn off that meaningless chatter that wastes a lot of time, and to be productive and get results. I thought, if everybody knew how to do that, like we'd all be moving forward a lot faster.
Absolutely. Great recommendation. And so, as we close things out, is there any closing thoughts that you would like to share with our listening audience, and as well as any contact information? Again, repeat that they can get in contact with you to get more information today.
Everybody can find me on LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn. It's Karen. It's linkedin.com/in/epic careering. So I'm in there underneath my company name. Anybody who's interested in co-creating a better world, I want to meet. I want to talk to you. Let's figure out, what that role looks like for you. Join C3, because everything that I envision will be built from there. Just get everybody in the same place right now, right? Let's get everybody who's willing, the frontline conscious leadership founders, in one place at one time to decide how to move forward together.
Excellent. Well, Karen, thank you. This has definitely been informative. I've enjoyed it. Again, your spirit, your energy that you bring, I definitely think folks will resonate with it and definitely want to connect with you. And I want to thank you for your investment of time and energy in joining the King Connections podcast.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
And